So let's recite the Gita Dhyanam. Om Parthaye Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayan Swayam Vyasena Grathitam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitamritvarshini Bhagavati Mashtadashadhyayane Amutvam Anusandhame Bhagavad Gite Bhavatveshine Namo Astute Vyas Vishal Buddhe Full Arvind Ayat Patra Netar Yen Tavya Bharat Tail Purnaha Prajvalito Gyan Maya Pradeepaha Prapanna Pari Jataye Totra Vetre Ekapanaye Gyan Mudraye Krishnaye Gita Amrit Duhe Namaha Sarvopnishdo Gavo Dogda Gopal Nandana Partho Vatsa Sudhir Bhogta Dugdam Gita Amritam Mahat वसुदेव सुतम देवम कंस चानूरमर्दनम देवकी परमानंदम कृष्णम वंदे जगद्गुरुम भीष्म द्रोण तटा जयद्रथ जला गांधार नीलोत्पला शल्य ग्राहवती कृपेन वहने कर्णेन वेलाकुला अश्वत्थाम विकर्ण घोर मकरा दुर्योधन अवर्तनी सोतीर्णा खलु पांडवै रन्नदी कवर्तका केशवा पाराशरे वत्सरोजमलं गीता अर्थगंधोटकम नानाख्यानक केसरम हरिकथा संबोधन अबोधितम लोके सज्जन षटपदे रह पे पिये मानम मुदा भूयाद भारत पंकजम कलिमल प्रध्वंसी न श्रेयसे मूकं करोति वाचालं पंगुम लंघ्यते गिरिम यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानंद माधवम यम ब्रह्म वरुणेन्द्र रुद्र मरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यस्तवे वेदै सांग पद क्रम उपनिषदै गायन्ति यम सामगा ज्ञानवस्ति तद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यम योगिनो यस्यन्तं न विदुसुर असुरगणा देवाय तस्मै नमः. Last verse of chapter 15, verse number 20, and we started understanding this, so just a few more thoughts on this. Iti guhutamam shastram idam uktam maya anagha etat buddhva buddhiman krit kritya cha bharata. Okay, so the first word iti is significant because it really tells us that this is a summarization of the rest of the verses. Iti, das. Guhutamam, most secret. Shastram, the teaching. Idam uktam. Idam means this. Uktam means has been taught. Maya, by me. Anag, O sinless one. Etat means this. Buddhva, wise. Buddhiman becomes. Kritakrityaha, who has accomplished all the duties, like a fulfillment. Cha means and, Bharat is for Arjuna. Thus, this most secret science or teachings has been taught by me, O sinless one. Knowing this, a man becomes wise and all his duties are accomplished, O Arjuna. So what is the most secret science of the teachings? Brahm Vidya. Brahm Vidya. Okay? Other sciences are important too, but the most profound. Okay? Guhutamam. There is a word guhu, then guhutar, then guhutamam. Okay? The most secret. This is a knowledge which really comes to a person when we are fully in tune with the reality. This intunement is needed. That's why he used the word anag. Anag word is sinless. And what is a sin? Sin is any kind of obstacles, any kind of obstruction in our mind to connect. That is a sin according to yogic philosophy. So in other words, sin is a resultant of the past that comes to demean our self-estimate of ourselves. Like we forget who we are. In essence, we are the Atma, which is part of Paramatma, and that's what he mentioned in this chapter very clearly. Okay? And when the obstruction comes, it creates a lot of mental storms. And outcome of mental storm is what? Mental dissipation. We lose that energy. So that's what sin is, when we disconnect ourselves, when we forget who we are. So the import of all Vedic teachings, the Vedic scriptures, Lord Krishna is telling us that I have taken you from the nature of the world to the distinction between the matter and the spirit. And finally, to the highest realization of the absolute truth as the supreme divine personality. That's what he talked about in this chapter. And he again says that I give you my assurance that whoever embraces this knowledge will become truly enlightened. Such a soul will accomplish the goal of all works. That is Krit Kritya. All the duties. It's not that the person will not do the worldly duties, will definitely do the worldly duties, but at the same time will stay connected with that highest also, which is God realization. So that's why this verse is a promise to us. At the same time, again, he's telling us what do we need to do? Be sinless. Be sinless. So sinless in the context here means for us students, steady-minded, alert, and vigilant. When we don't have these qualities, we are not sinless. So steady mind. That's why this daily practice of meditation, prayers, even yoga, the physical part of Hatha Yoga teaches us how to keep our mind steady while learning to keep the body steady. So steady-minded, alert, always be alert. These great yogis, they even taught us how to sleep with the full alertness. Sleep is tamsikta, but they say that sure, you need rest at night. But sleep like a yogi does. Eat the way yogi does. Walk the way a yogi does. Always be alert, always be vigilant. He who has realized this Purushottam state of consciousness becomes wise. He cannot make any error after that. What is the error? Error of judgment in his life. And consequently, no confusion, no sorrows for himself and for the others around him also. Okay, so he's just summarizing the whole chapter beautifully, just with the help of these couple of terms over here. Krit Kritya. Krit Kritya also means the person will enjoy the life. Enjoyment of a complete sense of fulfillment. When we do something properly, there's an enjoyment. So this kind of a student will enjoy life. You will see the enjoyment on the face, enjoyment in the giving, enjoyment in helping. No burden. Life is beautiful. That's what he's promising to us. So complete and overwhelming joy. And this kind of a joy comes when we realize that we have accomplished what we came here to accomplish. So this is promised here in this verse as the reward for the realization of the Purushottam stage. And we are, all of us are, the students, all of us are entitled to this. Now, even though we are all entitled, we are all same at the essence level. Why do we behave differently? Why do we act differently? Why do we go through the fluctuations of life? To answer that question, the next chapter. Dev Sampat, Dev Asura Sampat vibhaga yoga. Dev means the divine. Asur means the devilish. Sampada, samta means a wealth or estate or the qualities. Vibhag is the division. Okay. So in this chapter, clearly you can tell from the title that he's going to tell us distinctly the characteristics of a divine person or a divine qualities. Same person can have sometimes divine qualities, sometimes not so divine. We got to know. Am I at the platform of divinity when I think like this, when I act like this, when I behave like this or not? So this knowledge is very, very important for all of us. Okay. So he describes two kinds of nature, even though he categorizes in two because he wants to make it a little simpler for us. But that doesn't mean he's dividing the whole population into two. Okay, it's not like that. It's not that some people are devatas and some are asura. It depends how we are behaving, how we are thinking, how we are connecting with the world also. Okay. So saintly, in the ordinary language, you can call it a saintly and the demonic. Okay, so Dev means saintly. Saintly nature develops by following the instructions of the scriptures, cultivating the mode of goodness and purifying the mind through spiritual practices. In a nutshell, this is what we are going to learn. And it leads to God realization. And in contrast to that, the demonic nature develops from associating with the modes of passion, ignorance, and embracing a materialistic view. The matter is the only thing. And forgetting the reality, forgetting the essence, forgetting the divine. That is demonic. You will see that the qualities which he is going to mention, they have been accepted as virtues in all the faiths, all the isms, by all the great people. So these are like a virtues and the vices. That's another term for this. When we are full of vices, we are demonic. When we are full of virtues, we are divine. Okay. So let's look at what Lord Krishna is saying. From very first verse, Lord Krishna has started to enumerate the qualities or the virtues of divine. He says, Abhyam Satav Samshuddhi Gyan Yog Vivasthiti Danam Damacha Yagyacha Swadhyaya Tapaha Arjavam. Abhyam, fearlessness. Each word is very important. So we are going to elaborate on each term. We got to understand it. Because these are the qualities we need to cultivate if we want to become a devata or divine. Or if we want to move towards the God realization. The very first one, Abhyam, fearlessness. Sattva samshuddhi, purity of heart. Gyan yog vyavasthiti, steadfastness in the yoga of knowledge. Gyan yoga. Danam, giving, sharing. See, we all want to have a better relationship. Even with the world, we want to have a relationship. Even with our spouses and our children, our brothers and the sisters, we want to have a relationship, right? Good relationship cannot be without sharing. Think about it. If you want to take only, that's not a good relationship. That's why over here, Danam, cultivate this, the quality of giving. Dhamma, the control, and that means the control of the senses. Dham. Yajna, sacrifice. Swadhyaya, study of the scriptures. Tapaha, austerity. Arjavam, straightforwardness. So in this opening verse, we are reminded of the qualities which he has mentioned earlier in a yogi also, in a bhagat also, and now in a devta also. He's not telling us anything new. He is just bringing that message into our mind so that we really believe in it and we really accept it, that we need to cultivate these qualities. So this verse and next few verses altogether, there are 26 qualities he's mentioning, 26 qualities of a devata. Fearlessness, purity of heart, steadfastness in the yoga of knowledge, charity giving, control of the senses, sacrifice, study of the scriptures, austerity, and straightforwardness. Let's look at each word, because if Lord Krishna is telling us again and again these qualities, there must be some reason. So we got to understand them properly also. So let's look at the first one, Abhyam. Where does the bhay comes from? The fear comes from when we are attached to something. Attachment of any kind causes fear. Attachment to wealth, attachment to social prestige, attachment to the relationships. Fear comes. So fear is generated in a person only when the mind is clouded with ignorance. Ignorance is, this is mine. I don't want to part company from this. And in essence, nothing is ours. When we have this knowledge, then there's no fear. Body is not mine. It has been given to me for a short period of time. Because body is the most dear to us. Sure, wealth is dear, but we are ready to spend all the wealth if we find out that we need some surgery. Ready to put all that money. So wealth is nothing compared to love for the body. And even body is not ours. When we understand that, then there won't be any fear. So we got to cultivate this fearlessness with the help of knowledge. And what is knowledge? Real knowledge is God is everywhere. Let me connect with God. Let me connect with that highest, the supreme. So fear is the expression of avidya, ignorance. If somebody says, I'm so afraid, that means the person is ignorant. Like when we were children, or even now you will see some of your grandchildren, they're afraid to go in the dark. You see, I'll turn the light on, then the child can go. The same thing in our own mind. If there's a darkness, we are afraid. Turn the light on. There won't be any fear. So that's why the very first quality he said in a Devta is fearlessness. But think about it. We all want to become Devta. We want to become divine. We want to move up. Can we cultivate this? Wherever there's a knowledge, there's a fearlessness. Remember that. The second one, he says, purity of heart. Heart is the inner chamber. That is the heart. Inside us, our thoughts, our sentiments, our feelings, our emotions. Is there a purity? Are we really walking on the path of ethics, morality, wholesome, positive, uplifting thoughts we have? Can we say that I am more and more pure? Internally, sure, externally also, but over here he's talking about sattva samshuddhi, purity of the heart. So it's not just a passive goodness alone he is talking about. He wants us to have a higher values of life, positive glow of righteousness, bathe in the light of truth and virtue. That's what heart really means. Our intentions should be pure, our actions should be pure, our words should be pure. And there has to be harmony between our words also, actions also, and words also. Then we can say that we have this quality, purity of heart. Steadfastness and devotion to knowledge. Knowledge tells us, knowledge means gyan, what we get from the scriptures. Scriptures tell us what to do, what not to do. When humans forget what is right and what is wrong, they become like an animal. In the Vedas, there's a saying, Tattva vismaranat bheki vat. When we forget what to do, the right thing to do, we are not human beings. So devotion to knowledge is the positive way to persuade the mind to leave all the low temptations. So when we study the scriptures, when Rishi Patanjali told us that Swadhyay, do this Swadhyay, that is not just reading the books alone. Reading the scripture, cultivating that knowledge in our intellect, purifying our intellect, so that the low temptations we can let go. A mind that is awakened to the serener joys of the self will naturally never hang on to the sensuous beings and sensuous objects. Because when you have seen the purity, when you have seen the ultimate joy, you won't get attached to the lower. So that's why they say that devotion to knowledge or the Gyan Yoga is very important. Then he says, Dan, Dam, and Yajna. These three, in the second line, Danam, Damacha, Yajna. So these three are the techniques. These techniques will make us successful to tune up our inner instruments of knowledge so that we have the required energy which will make our devotion steady. See, first of all, this dan, where does the dan come from? This sense of sharing with somebody. When I know that I have enough, then I am ready to give also. So charity must come from our own sense of abundance. I feel I'm connected with God. God, in Punjabi we say, Bhagwan chappad phad kar deta. All we have to do is just connect with God. Otherwise we think that no, it's all mine. We just become very stingy. That's not a divine quality. Belongs to God, He is the one who gives. Another quality of a charitable person is a feeling of oneness with the others. We don't mind sharing with the people whom we call ours. It could be our children, our relatives, anybody who's ours, we don't mind sharing. The same thing if we can just extend it to others also. We are all part of the same equation. So that's why it just takes you to the higher level. In that sense, he added the dan over there. Sense of oneness in us. Oneness between the giver and the recipient. See, when I eat, my right hand is taking the food, put it into the mouth. Then mouth doesn't hold it. It pushes it down. Then it goes into the stomach. It doesn't hold it. It gives it to the rest of the body. This is like a receiver and a giver, oneness. This is the knowledge. Dan is born out of a capacity to restrain our instincts of acquisition. See, when we think that we want to hold, holding is a vice. Sharing is a virtue. So, devatas, this is a quality devatas have, sharing, spirit of sacrifice. So if the dan or the charity develops in us the capacity to detach ourselves from the wealth, then control of the organs, the dhamma, also brings the same kind of a spirit in a person. Control of the senses. So in that sense, they are connected. Dan, dham, and yajna. When we control our senses, only then we are able to do the yajna also. So the true charity is that which is done not with the feeling of superiority, that's one thing we have to remember, but with a sense of gratefulness. That's all belongs to God. God was grateful to me and I'm going to share it. But at the same time, I'm going to learn how to control my own senses also. Okay? And with those controlled senses, I am going to spend more time at the feet of my Lord. That's a yajna. If we do the yajna because we want more, that's not a devata. Okay? So yajna really means any kind of a prayer we do where we are trying to connect with God. So that's why I said that these three terms are very important terms for us to understand, because we do daily prayers also. We give also. We learn to control our senses also. Do it in a proper way so that there is a further evolvement. So without dham and dan, this pilgrimage to truth is merely a dream. We can just think about it, we can talk about it, but we are not really moving upward at all. Okay, so just remember these three terms. So, and in the absence of both dan and dham, the spiritual experience of the self recognition of the divinity within us is impossible. So from that sense, these Lord Krishna mentioned it, other saints also, they have written this Dan and the Dhamma again and again for us to cultivate. There's a question, looks like.
Yes, Sujata.
Hershji, don't you think he wants to also say, I mean, that every action, every word of ours has to be a yajna, an offering, and in that it has to be a pure offering, a selfless. Besides the whole just the physical act of prayer, our actions have to be a prayer.
Yeah, but first it has to start. The training is needed.
Right.
So we get the training when we are doing the prayers. Then later on, with that kind of a pure heart, with that kind of a cultivation of a personality, we move in the world. So that's why this does not stay only in the prayer room. It does reflect in our personality otherwise also. Yes. But for most of the people, it's easy to cultivate this at least in that environment first, and then take it out. Definitely. Okay. It shouldn't stay only among. That's why I said it should not be only between the family members. Family members, there's a oneness, but then ultimately we got to expand it. Right? The entire humanity is our family, not our humanity alone, the entire creation, or even beyond that, right? So all these terms over here, he has listed it very logically. There's a connection between one to the other. Okay, so it's not just one alone in a vacuum, but the previous one is connected with it. And then the study of the scriptures, because when we study the scriptures, we are really working on our intellect. When the intellect is illumined with proper knowledge, actions automatically become sublime. Because intellect is that faculty in us which decides. We can make better decisions. So that's why study of the scriptures is very, very important. There shouldn't be a day when we don't do this Swadhyay. But at the same time, it should not be only at the level of reading them or finishing them. Simultaneously, we got to observe, analyze, read, and study our own self. Swa Adhyay. Swa means own. We got to reflect in our own personality also. Okay. So if there's a regular study, then sure, prayers will become better. Control of the senses will become better also. The oneness will come also. So these are all connected, And the next term, tap. Tap is not a punishment, first of all. Tap is a voluntary acceptance of hardship. And what is the reason for tap? For purifying our body, for purifying our mind, and purifying our intellect. Tap. Last 3 days were Navratris, 9 days of tap, recommended by the saints, 9 days. So after the 9 days of tap, there should be some kind of a purity in us. Today is Dashera. So after 9 days of purity, we should see that did I burn any one of my flaws or not? Traditionally, we burn the Ravan, the 10-headed. If we keep on burning the outside Ravan every year, but still we don't have any of our flaws burnt, there's no improvement. So today, if we have done 9 days of fasting, Today we got to think about it. Am I a better being somewhere? Any difference or not? Okay, so voluntary acceptance of hardship is the, it's not a punishment. It's like a consciously you are denying yourself some from bodily comforts. You are reducing the indulgence in the world outside. And what happens when you are reducing the indulgence in the worldly sphere? You are generating the energy inside. Because you're not dissipating the energy. There's an energy inside. Is it moving upward or not? What are you doing with that energy? Are you bragging about it? That I did 9 days of fasting? That energy should be used properly, apply it for the purposes of self-development. Then it's a tap, otherwise it's not. Then another one he says, arjuvam, uprightness, straightforwardness. So again, it's related with the true intentions, motives, convictions, and aspirations. That's arjuvam means. There shouldn't be any crookedness in thought, emotions, and general conduct in a personality of a student. We should be able to discriminate our own intentions and the motives. We should pay some attention to it. Whatever I have studied, the path I'm walking on, am I straightforward or not? Am I saying something different than what I'm doing? So in this very first verse, we can see that how beautifully he has enumerated some of the qualities of a divinely good person. And we definitely see a sense of scientific connection between all these terms. Ethical values, moral beauty, which I told you earlier, it's given by all the isms, all the great saints. Okay? That's how our personality should be built on, with the reason, with the experience, and we need to prepare ourselves for it. It's not just a mere wishing that, hey, I'm going to be a Devata now. Because I'm a human being, I'm going to become a Devata. No, we got to bring these qualities in us. So work needs to be done. But before we start the work, we got to understand it. Okay, so let me just quickly go over. Fearlessness, purity of heart, steadfastness in the yoga of knowledge, giving, control of the senses, sacrifice, study of the scriptures, austerity, and straightforwardness. No other extra word has been added there, just these terms alone, the qualities we need to cultivate. And now, continuation of this in the next verse. Ahimsa satyam akrodha, tyagaha shanti apashanam, daya bhuteshu alolutvam, mardvam hi achapalam. Again, a list of some qualities. Ahimsa, harmlessness. Satyam, truth. Akrodha, absence of anger. Tyag, renunciation. Shanti, peacefulness. Apashanam, absence of crookedness. Daya, compassion. Bhuteshu, beings. Aloluptvam, non-greed. Mardhavam, gentleness. He, modesty. Achapalam, absence of fickleness. Harmlessness, truth, absence of anger, renunciation, peacefulness, absence of crookedness, compassion to beings, non-greed, gentleness, modesty, absence of fickleness. So Lord Krishna is continuing with his enumeration of the mental contents of the godly type of person. Okay, so it's almost 11, 11. So we can, we will start talking in detail. I'll start talking about it in the next class. You can just make a list of these. That's what I would suggest. With your own hands, write them down, the qualities of a Devta. Because we want to become from a human being to God. But before we become one with God, we got to cultivate these qualities. And that's what Devta is. That's a divinity is. Okay, this is the homework for us as a human being, to cultivate these qualities. Okay, just list them, and then when you write them with your own hands, then you will see that it just somehow takes a little deeper place in our mind. And then he doesn't stop it here. In verse number 3 also, he says, Teja Kshama Dhriti Shocham Adroha Na Atimanita Bhavanti Sampadam Devim Abhijatasya Bharat. So these first 3 verses of this chapter is enumerating the divine qualities. So this week you can just look at these, list them, and try to understand them. Not to judge others. Normally we just want to, when we learn something, we want to judge somebody else. Our children, our spouse, our brothers, sisters, our parents. No, this is for ourselves. Only and only for ourselves. Not to judge anybody else. Because the minute we start judging, we are not divine. We have stepped down. So we don't want to make that mistake. Okay? So judge yourself. Okay? So I'll just stop it here because we have Urmil Chawla also. Last week, she did not get a chance to recite chapter 15. Today, I would like her to recite that. But before that, if anybody has a question on these couple of verses, which I did today. Kim has a question? Yes, Kim.
Yes. Good morning, Guruji.
Good morning, Kim.
So I have a question about giving and non-hoarding. So the religions teach us to share everything with people in need, but the society teaches us that we have to save up money and save for retirement. Is that an example of hoarding, or and how much should we give to others of our income?
Okay, the scriptures they talk about start with 10%. Okay, that's why they are not, scriptures don't say give 100%. They are saying, every religion says that 10%. Then 90% we still have. So with that 90%, we should be able to do our duties. Take care of our children, take care of our old age, take care of current expenses. And if we can't, hey, cut down, simplify. Okay, so 10%. If somebody says, oh no, 10% is too much, then I'll say start giving 20. And then that doesn't mean that you give, you decide where to give. Lord Krishna is going to talk about it in the future chapters. Sattvic giving, Rajasic giving, Tamasic giving. Giving has the colors too. But 10% is not yours. In the ancient times, even the farmers, when the crop came, 10% of that, they did not use it for themselves. They all gave. That's where the prosperity was. These days, we have really expanded our own greed and the need, and that's why we don't have enough. Reduce your needs and the greeds. Take out the 10% first, then 90% will be enough. And 10%, my Guruji used to say, just have a bank account separate with the 10%. Remember that it's not yours. Wherever you see that somebody needs it, then you have enough to give because it's not yours anyway. It will not pinch. 10%. 10% of not just only the money, 10% of the time also. Time is also our wealth. God has given it to us, the time. 10% of the time should be for the seva. So if we are not peaceful, if the clarity is not there, if joy is not there, are we doing what we are supposed to do? We got to look within. Okay, does that answer your question, Kim?
Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah, we got to always remember, society will come up with different things. We got to just fall back on the scriptures. Scriptures are very clear about it, no matter what age, time, where we are. 10%. Okay.
Thank you.
This is Jay.
Yes, Jay.
On the root word abhaya, I've heard this in another context. I think it's from a conversation between Yudhishthira and Bhishma, that abhaya dana is the charity of abhaya. Granting that is the highest form of charity one can undertake. It's like putting another person in comfort, both from physical, mental state, and relieving the anxiety for another person.
Exactly. You are helping somebody to become fearless. Right?
Right.
Because helping somebody is, dan is not just only the dan of the food or the money, dan of the time also. That's why I said 10% of our time should be devoted to help somebody. 10%. So that is a abhay dan will be like that. You are helping somebody, you're counseling somebody, you're supporting somebody, you're teaching somebody. That is a dan. Okay. And then you will see that internal purity happens automatically when we follow these principles. We don't even have to work towards it then. Automatically, just like if I need to feel the sunshine, all I have to do is just go under the sun. That's all. It happens automatically. If I want to quench my thirst, just drink some water. But what happens to us? We want to have a special kind of a water, special glass. Our mind is just too dispersed into the matter. We got to just go connect it with the essence. Okay, so good point, Jay. Jyoti, anybody else has a question?
No, I think we can do Urmil's.
Okay, Urmil, please. I thought I saw her before.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good morning, Harji, and good morning, everybody else. You are 36 of you here, and I hope you'll enjoy the summary of chapter 15, though we are getting very absorbed in 16 and all our virtues. The Purushottam Yoga, Supreme Divine Personality. Using the symbol of the upside down banyan tree, also known as Ashtavatra tree, Lord Krishna compares it to the material nature to explain who is the Supreme Divine Personality called Purushottam. The eternal Ashwatha tree has its roots up and its branches bending downward. The leaves are the Vedic hymns for the yagnas. He who knows this is the learned. The branches of the tree spread up and down, nourished by three modes of material nature: The buds are the objects of the senses, and the aerial roots spread into the world further. So this is just a little vision of the upside down banyan tree. Now he says how to cut the eternal Ashwatha tree, the source of attachment to material nature. Where the Ashwatha tree began and how it compounded so much is beyond a man's perception. So best is it to cut the deep-rooted and knotted tree with a sharp axe of detachment and dispassion. Then man must look for the base of the tree, which is God, from whom came forth this creation. By taking refuge in the Creator, man does not return to earth after death, but attains salvation. Nature of the supreme abode and the criteria of one who qualifies to attain it. Those people attain my supreme abode who cast off material attachment, pride, and delusion. Also, those who control all evil lust and who always dwell in me and stay poised in joy and affliction or affliction. Be it the sun, the moon, or fire, none can brighten my supreme abode as it is self-illumined. Those who reach my supreme abode, they never return to earth again as they were virtuous. Now, we do the journey of the embodied soul or Jivatma and the Supreme Spirit. The embodied soul in the world are my eternal fragmental parts bound by the material realm. Very beautifully said that the inside soul in the world are my eternal fragmental parts bound by the material realm. These souls, swayed by the senses and the mind, battle to be free from worldly clutch and hell. Upon death, the individual spirit leaves the corpse, but it takes along the senses to the new body. As the air hijacks the aroma of the flower, Jivatma carries with it the marks on its mental faculty. The embodied soul is coaxed by the senses, grouped around the mind to enjoy exciting objects. It uses sense perceptions of ears, eyes, skin, tongue, and nose to savor their gratifying effects. The ignorant do not feel the soul residing in the body, nor do they see it leave the corpse. But those who grasp self-knowledge, all activities of Jivatma, they can observe, of course. The yogis, striving to purify their hearts, can recognize the presence of the individual spirit. The ignorant with impure hearts may try hard, but fail to recognize Jivatma and its merit. I, the Supreme Spirit, am the essence of everything, meaning I am Brahma. I know that I am the divine radiance of the sun that livens the complete solar system. I am also the radiance of the moon, the intensity in the fire and the beauty in all of them. I, the Supreme Spirit, infuses the earth and feed all the living beings with my energy. I become the watery moon, nurturing all the plants, trees, and herbs with my vivacity. I am the fire of digestion in the stomachs of all living beings, and I give them vital energy. Uniting with incoming and outgoing breaths, I help digest 4 types of foods for potency. I reside in the hearts of all beings. From me comes memory, wisdom, and keen intelligence. I am the truth to learn from the Vedas. I am the author of Vedantas and the knower of its essence. The perishable beings. And now he talks of Paramatma and Purushottam. And he also compares it with the perishable beings and the imperishable Supreme Spirit. In creation, there are two kinds of beings, Akshar, the perishable, and Akshar, the imperishable. The bodies of all living creatures are perishable, but the immortal souls, they are indestructible. Besides Shar and Akshar is the Supreme Divine Personality, who is the eternal Supreme Soul. He is called Paramatma. He enters the three worlds as the controller of people and their protocol. I, the Supreme Spirit, transcends the perishable world of matter and also the imperishable Atma. In this world and the Vedas, they regard me as the divine Supreme Personality called Purushottam. Those with the knowledge and clear vision know me as the Supreme Divine Personality. O Arjuna, wise know all aspects of the Supreme Spirit and worship me in entirety. O Arjuna, I've shared with you the sacred doctrines of Vedic scriptures and the interpretation. By grasping this knowledge, a person gets enlightened and fulfills all terms of self-realization.
Thank you very much, Urmil. Thank you. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
So this completes the chapter 15,
Yes.
which Harji, you explained further, and I have, it looks like I will have to write another book with all the more knowledge that we are acquiring. And just to go on the lighter note, Navratras are over, but we have to pay attention to the nature. The autumn is in the air. A little poetry I wrote looking at nature around me. Even though we are sitting at home and not going to the shopping mall, we have so much beauty to appreciate around us.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, the great leaves have changed into shades of yellow, gold, and brown. Earthy and rusting, autumn is here, and summer has left town. Now we see dewy mornings and the sun setting early on. Flowers have withered and whizzed hither and yon. The multi-hued leaves are gently falling everywhere. The shapely branches of the trees are getting bare. The dry leaves rustle under the feet in walkways and fashion a padded carpet in the driveways. The trees are graciously letting the weakened leaves fall, telling us that let go when the handwriting is on the wall. The wind-swept trees and branches of the autumn landscape, reminding us that the inevitability of death no one can escape. Acorn seeds, berries, and nuts are rattling to the ground, a treat for the squirrels, their winter hoarding will abound. In harvest breads, cakes, and cookies we now indulge, savoring pies and taffy apples, our stomachs will bulge. The children are back to schools, babbling in carpools. With backpacks and sport bags, they hobble to schools, embracing old classmates and making new friends, energized at gym, and before you know it, their day ends. When the powerful autumn sun shines out of the clouds, it warms the earth, uplifts our moods, and enlivens the crowds. Children put on their hoodies and go swinging on the trees. They play ball outdoors before the snow and the winter freeze. Mums are now planted in colors crimson, rust, yellow, and tan. Medley of these vibrant colors lifts the soul of every man. Sipping cider and spiced tea with a few friends' favorite has a magic power to heal the body, mind, and spirit. In the cycle of seasons, after spring comes summer, after autumn and the drama of fall colors comes winter. Such changes have occurred since the ages, yet they all hold on to their persona, even in their final stages. Though I'm feeling melancholic, the summer charm is fading. I'm glad that the autumn in the air and new tone is setting. From September equinox to December solstices, we are celebrating fall festivities of Navratras, Halloween, Diwali, and Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Urmil. Thank you very
I
much.
was looking out